Hey you guys, insight number 2. We're looking this week at the plagues because I've been meaning and the overall picture of it. So we're going to cover the first 3 because they happen in threes except for the last one. Yes, there are 10. So in 7:20 we read of the first one, and I will lift my huge heavy Bible here. And it said, "And Moses and Aaron did so as the Lord commanded, and he lifted up the rod and smote the waters that were in the river in the sight of Pharaoh, and in the sight of his servants, and all the waters that were in the river were turned to blood." Now this is also where we read down in 23 that Pharaoh's heart was hardened in 22, and then in 23 goes into his house and sort of says, "I really don't care, do whatever you want." Like to him it wasn't impressive. It didn't impress him at all. Didn't make any dent into his ego, into his hardened heart. So now, it's good to know that the Nile was worshipped. This was not an early morning stroll for Pharaoh. He was actually going out to pray to the Nile. Yet the waters as blood simply were an inconvenience, and he just waited the 7 days and ignored it until it passed. So then you go to 8:5, and this is good. "And the Lord spake unto Moses, say unto Aaron, Stretch forth thy hand with thy rod over the streams, over the rivers, and over the ponds, and cause frogs to come up upon the land of Egypt." Now, frogs were sent in challenge to Heqet. Right? There's a Nile god too. I just didn't write that down. But yeah, Heqet. The Nile god. The Nile god is Hapi, god of the Nile. So both, now we've challenged 2 gods. So the magicians could also bring forth frogs, you read in verse 7, but they couldn't take them away. They could only bring them forth. And Pharaoh entreats Moses to get rid of the frogs. He promises to let them go and then retracts it once it's done. And you'll see that in 8. And a few further on, he's like, yeah, because his magicians and his people were like, we've got to get rid of these frogs. You can imagine frogs everywhere, literally. I was in Bali once, and there was a torrential downpour, and it's like all these little frogs hatched, and they were it was like a carpet of frogs. It was kind of a cool thing, but I wouldn't want to live with it all the time. Now they were tiny. They were tiny little things. They were more like insects, but they were frogs that would then grow to be bigger frogs. And they were getting run over on the roads. People were stepping on them, so there was lots of squished little frogs everywhere. I guess for that part of the world, and that's how frogs came forth like that in the rainy season. But that always reminded me of, imagine if they were adult frogs and they were literally everywhere through your house, in your bed, in your kitchens, right? Kissing none of them ain't going to give you a prince, so no to frogs. So that was that. So that was the first time that he'd said, this is not the first time he said, let my people go, but this is the first time that Pharaoh had said yes and then retracted. So previous, Moses and Aaron had gone and asked him, and had just bluntly said no. This time he said yes, if you get rid of the frogs. They got rid of the frogs, and he's like, yeah, no, I changed my mind. So then we look at lice. Lice comes in 8:17, and lice is also known as stinging gnats. And they come in the challenge to Seb. He was the god of, get this right, the god of the earth. So this is in challenge to their god of the earth. And in verse 19, you'll see, this is really interesting. That says here, "The magician said unto Pharaoh, This is the finger of God. And Pharaoh's heart was hardened, and he hearkened not unto them, as the Lord had said." Because the Lord knew that his heart was not going to be softened. Sadly, it wasn't going to happen. But this is the magicians who were using Satan's power to perform their magics. And here they say, oh, it's the finger of the Lord. It's the finger of God with this. This is beyond our power. This is bigger. They recognized it. They were like, wow. Okay, Pharaoh, dude, mate, this has got to stop. You've got to let these people go. And Pharaoh still said no. So he hardened his heart and listened not. So what do you really think Pharaoh was thinking by now? Right? So he has that other conversation with them. We'll see flies in the next one. But yeah. So the lice hung around. Aki, right? Lice. The lice hung around. The lice hung around until they sort of ran their natural course as well. And it's like, what's Pharaoh thinking by now? Is he actually even paying attention at this point? I like to think, like, what's in his head as to his heart? Is his heart telling him? Is he having that inner conflict? Did he talk with more advisors? Or was he just that arrogantly stuck with a hardened heart? And you can liken that to us, and we'll talk about that in the last one. But that's where you've got to look at. Where do we fit in this story? Like, if we were in Egypt or in Goshen, where the Israelites lived, where would we fit right now? Would you be like, yay, Moses, yay, Aaron, do everything they say, you're the prophet, we love you? Or are you going to start being like, oh, I don't know, and oh, that's cool, but, what does that really mean for me? And so, like, where do you fit? Think about that. All right. President Nelson, he said, when sore trials come upon us, it's time to deepen our faith in God, to work hard and serve others. Then he will heal our broken hearts. He will bestow upon us personal peace and comfort. So by this point, you can imagine the Egyptians, the magicians pointed it out. So you can imagine the rest of the Egyptians are feeling this. They don't want frogs, lice, and water that's blood. You can't drink blood. Well, you can, but it's not very good. We're not vampires, right? So that would have been hard. 7 days, no water. There's no washing, no shower. Unless you want a blood shower. That's pretty hard stuff. So while we might not have trials exactly like that, we certainly have sore trials. And it's time to deepen our faith, to work hard and to serve others. So this is Jesus, Jehovah, showing them that he's more than the gods that they were worshipping. So we're going to talk more about that and look at the next 3 and insight number 3. I'll see you there.